Before the amusement park was built, it was a cemetery. The buyer decided to clear the graves and build an amusement park. This might be the only horror movie in Hong Kong that can still make audiences scream with the lights on. Since its release, in 2003, just mentioning this movie still sends shivers down people's spines. It's one of Hong Kong's top 10 horror films, Daylight Park. The story begins with a ruthless developer who, to save costs, bought a cemetery at a low price and built the largest amusement park at the time on top of the graves. However, on the first day of the park's opening, a strange incident occurred. A girl fell from the Ferris wheel and died instantly. The once joyful park was filled with screams and children ran away in terror. But a clown behaved strangely, smiling eerily at the corpse before releasing a balloon and then hanging herself on the Ferris wheel. Fast forward 14 years, Tian Lun, who works at a TV station, accidentally discovered the story of the amusement park while researching. Back then, he and his sister witnessed the tragedy firsthand. This coincidence sparked his interest in investigating the amusement park. The next day, he took a camera to the long-abandoned park. As he walked, a metal gate suddenly opened. He peered inside, but it was pitch black and a foul smell wafted out. Tian Lun hesitated for a moment before leaving. As soon as he left, the gate slowly closed as if controlled by someone. Tian Lun continued filming, but when he reached a path, he found clown props hanging from the trees. At the same time, a strong voice called out to Tian Lun. He followed the voice, but the path suddenly changed, surrounded by desolate graves, with a voice continuously calling his name. Just as he was panicking, a hand suddenly grabbed his ankle. Tian Lun struggled desperately but was eventually pulled underground. The scene shifted to a cemetery where a group of children played happily, holding each other's shoulders. At this moment, Tian Lun's sister, Axing, walked over in a daze, and in front of her stood Tian. Suddenly, a small hand grabbed Axing, and with a scream, she woke up from a nightmare. It was just a terrible dream. However, at that moment, the wardrobe opened and a pale-faced boy emerged. He climbed onto Axing's bed, staring intently at her. Axing screamed again, realizing it was still a dream. Since her brother Tian Lun disappeared, she had nightmares almost every night. Sensing something was wrong, she found her mother, Ying. But when she saw that her mother had already set up a memorial tablet for Tian Lun, Axing said, "Brother is just missing, why set up a tablet?" Ying, who had been a shaman for many years, also dreamed of Tian Lun's tombstone. Although they hadn't found the body, she was convinced her son had died an unnatural death. Axing didn't believe her, and the mother and daughter parted unhappily. The next day, Axing left a note saying she was going to the abandoned amusement park to find her brother. She then arranged with Tian Lun's colleague and her friend to explore the park. Despite being abandoned for years, the park still exuded a sense of death even during the day. They seemed unaffected and even took a group photo in the park's center. Just then, a strange old man appeared, angrily driving them away, saying there were evil spirits here and they should leave if they didn't want to die. The group decided to leave and plan their next move. Axing stubbornly believed her brother might still be in the park, and the others didn't want to spoil the fun, deciding to sneak back in at night. Little did they know, their lives were already on a countdown. At 9 p.m., they sneaked back into the abandoned park, splitting up and agreeing to meet at the plaza in an hour. One of them, curious, went to the power station and turned on the switch, unexpectedly finding the park still had electricity after all these years. The eerie lights came on, and the rusty equipment began to move, making sounds like ghostly wails. Despite the strange surroundings, they felt no fear, unaware they were being watched. The first to fall victim was Zihao, who was walking alone on a path. He looked up and suddenly saw a clown hanging from a tree, even though he knew it was just a lifeless mannequin. The realistic appearance still made his heart skip a beat. At that moment, he seemed to see something through the camera and turned to run back. Meanwhile, Axin seemed to step on something. Looking down, she saw her brother Tian Lun's broken bracelet, confirming her belief that he was trapped there. They followed the path and found Zihao's abandoned camera. On the screen, Zihao seemed to have encountered something terrifying. The jokester, no longer smiling, realized that since the camera was there, Zihao must be nearby. The sky suddenly changed, and a dark cloud loomed over the park. The jokester's curiosity got the better of him, and without consulting Axin, he ran inside. Axin and the others, worried, followed him in. But once inside, Xiaolan felt uncomfortable, as if someone was watching her. The jokester kept teasing Xiaolan for being too timid. Meanwhile, Axon saw a woman through the camera, but when he opened it, there was nothing there. To avoid scaring his friends, he didn't mention what he saw and just pulled them to run outside. Suddenly, blood dripped onto Xiaolan's head. In the chaos, Zihao's body suddenly fell beside Xiaolan, leaving her frozen in fear. Axon and the jokester ran in opposite directions, but Axon soon stopped, seeing countless withered hands reaching out from the corridor in the camera. Terrified, he backed away, only to turn and see an old woman stumbling toward him. Axon, not caring about anything else, dashed through the corridor. At the end, he met the jokester, who was also fleeing. But Xiaolan wasn't so lucky. Her legs gave out and she couldn't stand. In the next moment, ghostly hands grabbed her from behind. The scene shifted to a night watchman on a desolate hill, brewing a strong cup of tea and listening to the radio. His fingers tapped to the rhythm, but then something strange appeared in his cup. The night watchman turned his head sharply. This might be the bravest couple in Hong Kong, playing on the haunted park's carousel, but their friend sitting nearby noticed something was wrong. The little train was empty, yet children's laughter echoed from it. Aji thought he was hearing things, but when he turned back, several children appeared on the train. Frightened, Ajia ran off, stopping the carousel to tell his friends there were ghosts. However, when Xiao Shuai and Xiaoru came over, there was nothing where Aji pointed. Xiao Shuai mocked him for being not only a coward, but also a tag-along, knowing Aji had a crush on Xiaoru. His words grew harsher, and although Xiaoru stopped their argument, Xiao Shuai was clearly upset. Leaning on the carousel, he blew a smoke ring, which formed a ghostly face. The carousel spun faster, seemingly intent on not letting Xiao Shuai off alive. Moments later, Xiao Shuai was thrown off. Ignoring the terrified Xiaoru, he ran away, not noticing a bar in front of him. Xiao Shuai ran straight into it, his neck slashed, and he fell lifelessly. Xiaoru, meanwhile, was taken to safety by Aji. After years of friendship, she finally realized Ajia's feelings. Compared to the irresponsible Xiao Shuai, Ajia's loyalty touched her. But as they embraced, a spirit possessed Xiaoru, and she stabbed Aji in the chest with a screwdriver. Ajie, terrified, ran away. As he started his car, the possessed Xiaorao followed, using her voice to lure Aji out. But the next moment, she strangled him. Meanwhile, Axon and the jokester, who escaped the haunted house, found themselves trapped in a ghostly maze, always returning to the same spot. No matter how they ran, they ended up back where they started. A blue ghost fire floated in the air, and the jokester couldn't dodge it, getting pierced through. The blue flame spread over his body, and Axon could only watch helplessly as his friend burned to death. In his despair, the girl who fell from the Ferris wheel years ago suddenly appeared, telling Axon to follow her. She led him to an open space, pointing to the ground, saying, "Here." At that moment, images of his brother's murder flashed in Axon's mind. He rushed over, digging frantically, and found his brother's body. Shadows emerged from all around, the bâti de sea, suffocating deathly aura terrifying him. Axon, ignoring his fear, quickly fled the cemetery. Soon after, he returned to the amusement park, only to find the cold bodies of his friends. He didn't realize he was the only one left. Meanwhile, the possessed night watchman stood behind him with an axe, slowly approaching his prey. Just as he was about to swing the axe, his mother, Ai Ying, suddenly intervened, saving Axon. The night watchman calmly said that everyone who entered would die. Ai, unfazed, waved her hand, creating a giant talisman that expelled the spirit from the night watchman. She then used a soul-capturing camera to capture the spirit. Just when they thought it was over, the park's equipment started moving, and an evil spirit flew out of a clown's head, entering Ai Ying's body. Moments later, Ai Ying dropped the camera, now possessed and intent on killing all intruders. But Ai Ying's consciousness remained, telling Axon to use the camera to capture the soul, or the night watchman wouldn't leave. Seeing his mother in pain, Axon hesitated but picked up the camera. After capturing the soul, he realized that the human soul would also vanish. His mother, after a few last words, died in his arms. The cemetery's owner, Guo, and the spirits emerged, unable to reincarnate due to the evil spirit's control. Only Axon's soul-capturing camera could save them. In his grief, Axon took photos of each spirit, helping them pass on. Though they had been dead for a long time, they smiled in relief at the end. Finally, Axon's friends appeared one by one. Unlike his sadness, their warmth encouraged Axon to send them off. Axon survived, but he would live with guilt forever. He took the group photo from the park, unaware that the spirit still lingered around him. The movie ends here. See you next time.